Before I talk about Edgewater, I want to start with how I learned to experience cities. For most of my life, I relied on walking, biking, and public transportation. Growing up, I walked nearly 2 miles to school every day. I learned cities at human speed, not from behind a windshield. Later, living and spending time in cities like Paris and Cambridge in Massachusetts, I experienced what it means to live well without depending on the car. These places were not just walkable. They were energetic, dense in a positive way, and deeply social. Daily life unfolded in public, on streets and in cafes, with a strong sense of community and shared space. Transit was not an inconvenience, it was freedom. It shaped my daily routines, my social life, and how neighborhoods actually felt and worked. That experience taught me something important. The best neighborhoods are not the ones eliminating cars. They are the ones that do not require them for daily life. That idea sits at the core of how I see Edgewater in Chicago. Chicago is at the critical moment. Demand for quality housing, thoughtful development, and neighborhoods that support real daily life is high. At the same time, the city has large areas of underutilized land and buildings waiting not for speculation, but for intention. Along corridors like Broadway Avenue, you can feel the tension. Quiet stretches, vacant sites, buildings waiting for their next chapter. This gap between demand and potential, it's not a problem. It's really an opportunity. Edgewater is uniquely positioned to act on that opportunity. It is a walkable neighborhood, yet daily life is still dominated by cars. Along Broadway Avenue, multiple underutilized vacant sites are coming to market all at the same time, many of them directly adjacent to CTA stations. At the same moment, the CTA has completed a full modernization of the elevated tracks. Quietly, this introduces something rare in a dense urban neighborhood: durable, long-term infrastructure. Infrastructure that allows the space beneath the tracks to be meaningfully used. Conditions like this do not appear often. They require investment, coordination, and timing. When they do appear, they change what is possible. I'm an architect and urban designer who has been practicing for around 25 years, mostly in Chicago, working across scales from single-family homes to large mixed-use developments and master plans. Across all of that work, the goal was always consistent: to design places that improve daily life and endure over time. Together with my team, we recognize that opportunities like this are rare. Too often, neighborhoods change one parcel at a time without a shared framework or long-term vision. Rather than waiting for an isolated project, we chose to act proactively. This work is an exploration, an attempt to ask a simple question: what becomes possible when housing, transit, public space, and sustainability are designed together from the very beginning? Our process was exploratory and rigorous at the same time. We focused on Broadway corridor, all the way from Foster to Thorndale, an area served by 3 Red Line stations. In particular, we looked closely at Hollywood and Bryn Mawr area, a site that sits directly adjacent to a transit and within Edgewater's first commercial district that was founded in 1880s, nearly 140 years ago. That history matters. It raises an essential question: what is next? And how can new vitality along Broadway create mutual benefit for both the new residents and also the long-established neighborhood around it? We studied multiple development approaches across the corridor, treating it as a connected system rather than a series of individual sites. We explored an option focused on lower density housing, with a neighborhood retail concentrated around key intersections, and pairing them with a mixed public and private open space. We also explore a more intensely activated Broadway corridor with a higher density and more activated commercial edge, focused on flexibility and strengthening existing neighborhood businesses. Finally, we studied a balanced mixed-scale approach that integrates housing, commerce, and public space all at the same time. This scenario focuses on maximizing open space while introducing a level of density that fits within the existing context. Each scenario was evaluated not just for yield, but for livability, constructability, long-term value, and everyday experience. One approach consistently rose to the top. The balanced mixed-scale approach emerged as one of the most compelling ones every time we looked at it. The scale, generally 7 to 5 stories, aligns with construction methods Chicago knows well. It introduces density without overwhelming the neighborhood. More importantly, this type of building drives community. It reflects the kind of homes I experience in Cambridge and Paris, where housing, streets, daily life were closely intertwined, and where buildings supported social interaction rather than isolating people. At this scale, daily needs are close enough that walking, biking, and transit becomes the default, not an exception. It also performs well. Mid-scale buildings maximize roof areas for solar energy while freeing the ground plane for landscape, stormwater management, and public life. This is where performance and quality of life intersect. The real value of this approach is what it gives back. Not a leftover space, but intentional public environments that function as extension of daily life. This is largely missing from much of what currently is being built around transit stops. Places to walk your dog, places to buy groceries, places to meet a friend for a coffee, places for children to play and neighbors to gather. When these places are close and connected, they reduce the number of trips that require the car in the first place. They're not amenities layered on top of housing. They're fundamental to a livable neighborhood. Retail, services, and institutions in these developments directly support people and their daily routines rather than simply fulfilling zoning or code requirements that often actually result in empty and hard-to-lease spaces. The elevated city structure is central to this vision. If designed intentionally, the space beneath becomes connective tissue between East and West Edgewater, rather than a barrier. It becomes a neighborhood infrastructure. It is not a fantasy. Sure, it's a little ambitious, I can admit that. It is a planning decision. This new condition in Edgewater creates shared space that could benefit both the new residents and neighbors who have lived there for years. It strengthens connections, supports daily movement, and contributes to a sense of urbanity and belonging. Of course, practical questions come up. What about parking? What about trash? What about safety? These concerns are real and they are solvable. Chicago already offers examples. Streets like Milwaukee Avenue, Lincoln Avenue, or even Fulton Market show how active edges on-street parking create environments that are accessible, livable, comfortable for people, while still functioning for vehicles. Too often these questions stop conversations before design even begins. They don't have to. Parking does not need to be a permanent liability. The additional space created by CTA's structure allows parking to be integrated more flexibly. Today, it supports residents who rely on cars, yes. Over time and mobility patterns evolve, and they will, it can transform into green spaces, gardens, recreational areas, or shared amenities. This approach supports choice today, while designing a neighborhood that increasingly works without the car, much like Edgewater did when it was first founded, a walkable community, long before widespread of car ownership. This vision does not assume that every parcel is developed at the same time, or conditions stay the same. Even partial implementation benefits from a strong framework. A clear vision creates alignment, momentum, and long-term value as realities evolve. The greatest risk is not uncertainty. It is thinking small because uncertainty exists. The purpose of this work is simple: to show what is possible, to elevate expectations, to create momentum around quality development, and strengthen community and place. This is not a finished solution. It is an invitation to create place that builds community, architecture that delights, urban experience that brings joy, to leverage major transit investment to create destination people are drawn to, not just pass through, and ultimately to return to the kind of daily life I first experienced in cities like Paris and Cambridge. Walking, biking, and transit, they're not compromises, but the foundation of a rich, connected neighborhood. An invitation to think bigger about Edgewater, about Broadway, and about how cities can grow with intention rather than by accident.